Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode here of In the Zone. This is episode 215. I'm Giancarlo Aulino, joined as always here with Chris Martelli. And Chris, we got to kick this off with a big event taking place tonight. The premium live event in Puerto Rico, Backlash. They took out the WrestleMania part of it, thank God. And we got to kick this off with one of the big main events here. I don't know if it's going to close the show, but if it doesn't, we know why later on. But Cody Rhodes taking on Brock Lesnar, a feud no one really asked for, but it's been an entertaining build-up nonetheless. What do you think's going to happen in this match?
There's two ways they can go with it. They can go with the typical Brock Lesnar eats everybody and wins almost every feud, or they could actually go with the different side of things and go with let's actually have Cody Rhodes win this and push his babyface run to the moon. You look online, Aulino, on Twitter a lot of the time. I know we're both on Twitter quite a bit. I feel like a lot of people are not liking this Cody Rhodes run right now. I feel like he's being pushed down a lot of people's throats. A lot of his promos feel a little bit maybe too forced. I was saying to you before the pod, he doesn't have to come out every week and do a promo. That's just not a ideal recipe, I think, for Cody. He was never a talker all those years ago in WWE, and now all of a sudden coming out every week and cutting. Mind you, they're passionate promos. It's great, but you don't have to do it every single week. And I love the way Brock kind of after WrestleMania, he beats Almost, doesn't really know what direction he's going in. They come out and they do a swerve on Raw. And mind you, that Raw after Mania was probably one of the worst. But you have Brock come out, turn heel in the process. Now, we talk about it, Aulino. Is this a long heel run? Probably not. I don't really see Brock being a heel for too long. There's a conspiracy that he's never really turning heel. He's just getting him ready for Roman. I don't think that's the case. I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I think Cody Rhodes does get the I think he gets the better of Brock Lesnar here. And if Brock wins this, I would not be surprised if there's a rubber match down the line, probably at the next pay-per-view. As we all know, Roman's a part-timer. So if you really want to sell it as a main event feud, which they have without Roman, this is probably the feud that they're gonna go with. Both guys are must see, but I'm gonna go with Cody Rhodes here to win.
Yeah, this it's been an interesting build because Brock Lesnar looks like he's taking the Undertaker's gear after he took his streak. He comes out with the coat and the hat, and he's just pissing Cody off. And I get he's being that heel. He didn't really say really much why he's going after Cody, other than that he main evented and not him. So I guess they could go back to Brock being a face pretty easily. I hope they do that. I hope it's fun because ever since he returned, it's been so refreshing for his career. And there's a lot of guys now, especially on Raw, if he wants to work Mondays as a free agent, that they could pair him up with, or even SmackDown, other than Roman. There's some guys, but I think it's going to be a squash match. I think he's going to sell for Cody in the first minute. He'll let Cody get his anything in there, like we saw in Raw when he punched him, and Brock sold it as if he got hit by Mike Tyson. So we'll go and see Brock after 1 minute in just get 20 German suplexes in on Cody and F5, and I think this will be over in about 6 minutes.
Do you think if they do that, they go in that direction, is that bettering Cody's run as like you're making him more of a sympathetic baby face and like it's a huge mountain to climb to get on the level of Roman and Brock, or do you think that's just going to hurt Cody down the line?
Yeah, I think this is just building more sympathy for Cody. He's going to be a victim here because I think Brock, they're going to do something. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets stretchered out and they really play that up, where in 3 weeks from now, we'll see him come back and say he wants to still continue on here and he's going to finish the story or whatever he's saying. And I think they're going to do something where he'll get another big match. Maybe they do a rematch at SummerSlam and he beats Brock and they put him in that direction to go after Roman again. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is just the start of a squash, only for Cody to get more and more sympathy each week and goes for a rematch against Brock.
Yeah, I think just the way they built Cody Rhodes in the last, it's been 5 months now. I think if you squash him here, all the build that you did those 5 months is just worthless. And the main event at WrestleMania, man, like he basically he basically outlasted Roman Reigns, only for Solo to help him win. And I think if you do I mean, it is Brock Lesnar. Don't get me wrong. He squashed Cena to win the undisputed title back in 14, but I don't know if Brock really needs to squash anybody here. Like, it's not like Brock's going for a title after this. I don't know if he's going to go for the world heavyweight title. I don't know if he's going after Gunther. I have no idea, but I just think Brock Lesnar is in no business. I don't think he's at that stage anymore where he has to squash anybody to get anything. Like, we know who Brock Lesnar is. We know what he's going to do probably at SummerSlam, probably be in a meaningful match. I just think Cody Rhodes at this point, you gotta give him either a huge opportunity here to put on a banger like Punk did in 13, or you have Cody Rhodes come out here and just win in a very convincing fashion. So if they squash him, Aulino, I mean, I wouldn't really be surprised because it's Brock, but at the same time, looking back at the bill that they gave Cody, I would be a little surprised.
It's gonna be an interesting one tonight with our boy Brock and Cody, and there's gonna be blood in this match. I think we can
Yeah,
agree there.
oh, for sure.
So it's gonna happen, just like in Cody's other matches. But the match that it's coming up as a lot of people think it's a main event. I think they might as well, since they're in that market. The Puerto Rican guys, and you have Bad Bunny here, local favorite, recording artist. Damian Priest, his former tag partner. I think this would be a good way to send the fans home happy. If you have Damian Priest and Bad Bunny, do you think this should close the show?
Yeah, it should. Just because of the culture, how much Bad Bunny means to this city, to the country. He's one of the biggest artists in the world, and Bad Bunny's not a bad wrestler. A lot of people saying, "Oh, you can't have a celebrity main event, a pay-per-view." It's like, man, like this guy, him and Logan Paul are different type of guys. They come in here and they actually put on a hell of a show. Damian Priest, we saw with his U.S. title run, he can put on great matches when he wants to. Had a couple great bangers with Sheamus. He had it with Lashley. I think this match now, with the stipulation, a street fight, you have the LWO in Bad Bunny's corner, you have the Judgment Day. In Priest's corner, you have Ray and Dominic also being integrated in this. I think this is going to be absolutely outstanding. I don't expect this to be a downer, and this will basically set the tone for the pay-per-view. If this match is a downer, this pay-per-view is probably not going to deliver, and you're going to look back at this pay-per-view, and it's probably going to be a disappointment if this one really doesn't hit a home run. But again, you have Bad Bunny, you have Rey Mysterio, you have the LWO, who've probably been one of the most over factions the last month, going up against heel Mysterio, who's been probably the biggest heel in the company, and Damian Priest. Man, we all know that he has a couple things. He could shock a lot of WWE fans when he wants to. So I'm not going to call this a 5-star match, but I do think when we look back on it, it's going to be one of those matches that we're going to be surprised with.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the stipulation, you can have like a lot of interference. I wouldn't be surprised if Dominic's the first one out there, and then that brings the LWO out and turns into a faction versus faction match, and then we'll see the finish there. So I think it will deliver, send them home happy. Like we saw in SmackDown there, Bad Bunny, LWO, they'll celebrate, and I don't think it would damage Priest. He's going to main event a pay per view in Puerto Rico. Even though he didn't really have something at Mania, I think this would be the next best thing for him to gain some momentum. So I'll go Bad Bunny winning it, but I think Priest will get something meaningful out of it.
Yeah, and I like the way they're building the Judgment Day low key. Remember, I think it was in January they were starting to become a comedic act where they just laugh at everything, and now they're back on their horse with Judgment Day. Priest is phenomenal when he wants to. Finn Balor's phenomenal when he wants to. Dominic's probably the most hated, and then you have Rhea Ripley, who went first overall in the draft. So I think they're really grooming Judgment Day to be on the same level as the Bloodline. Maybe not the Bloodline, but be around there. Like you have Judgment Day, LWO, and then the Bloodline all kind of coexist with each other. I think that's absolutely phenomenal. I'm intrigued with what they're doing with the Judgment Day. I don't know if they're going to win the tag titles from Sammy and KO, but I think if there is one faction that it probably should be Dom and Priest that win those titles eventually.
I agree. What, just the heel heat that would get? Holy.
Oh yeah.
The next match here, this is another one that the local market's gonna like. I think they're gonna rally behind Selena Vega here. She's taking on Rhea Ripley. Like Rhea Ripley, is this like a foregone conclusion she's gonna win this, or do you think it would be a nice surprise or Selena Vega catches her off guard and ends this title reign in a month?
No, no. Rhea's winning this. I don't know if it's going to be a squash, but I don't see it really being too competitive. I think they're gonna go with a huge babyface sympathy card here for Selena. She's a lot smaller. We've seen Rhea just manhandle her, so I think when you visibly on TV you have Rhea go after guys like Solo and the Usos just to have her face Zelina Vega at the pay-per-view, it doesn't bode well for the challengers. So I'm going to go with Rhea Ripley here, Aulino. I don't think it's going to be too competitive, but we will see Zelina Vega get some offense. But at the end of the day, I think this is only the beginning of Rhea's long, long title reign.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a match where it's going to set the stage here for the street fight. So I think Dominic comes out, helps Rhea get the win there, get the heel heat, and then at the end of the night, we'll see the LWO get the upper hand on Judgment Day. So I think both matches are going to be like the outcome is going to go over and carry over onto the next one. But this match that came out of nowhere, Matt Riddle teaming up with his new best friends, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, to take on the Bloodline. Is this match like filler, or do you think this is going to be leading into something meaningful for everyone?
I don't know, man. I love Sammy and KO. I love what they did at Mania. I love the Bloodline. I love I love everyone in this match, but it just hasn't delivered for me since the main event of WrestleMania. It's one of those where can you really top it after everything they've done to build for it, the match quality at WrestleMania? I thought it was phenomenal. So, like you have Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens going up against going up here defending the titles. I don't know what to expect with Solo in this out of all the guys here. I think Solo down the line is probably gonna maybe I don't know if he's gonna turn on the Usos, but I think he's just gonna start going for maybe even Roman Reigns whenever that's gonna be, because I feel like Solo, Alino, call me crazy, he might be already almost like a sub main eventer. The way they built him up, he rarely loses, and when he does lose, the crowd really cheers when he loses. So they're really, really doing a good job with him being one of those top heels. Matt Riddle, on the other hand, he's been gone for so long. He's been out of the mix. It's just a little awkward that he's in here. Yeah, they took him out all those months ago, but this isn't about Riddle. It's about Sammy and KO and their tag title runs. So to me, it's a little bit random. I hate to say it because, this was one of the best storylines going into Mania, but I feel like it's fallen flat since then. And you got to remember, Alina, with the draft, this is probably the last time we'll see these two go at it. So I obviously got to go with, I'm not going to lie, I actually think the Usos and Solo might be winning this one.
Yeah, I think it would be a good story, and then you can continue on the Bloodline angle, and maybe at like Money in the Bank is where we'll see them one by one start going up against Roman. Like he'll probably start off with Jay, and then that will lead into eventually Solo by the end of the year. So I wouldn't mind seeing that. I think Solo versus Roman would be the only one we really haven't seen. Like I know they didn't do Jimmy versus Roman, but the Jey Uso storyline with Roman was amazing. So they could do that with Solo. I think they're grooming him for that, and KO and Sammy after this, like, what do you want to see those two do?
Man, honestly, it's getting to that point where, like, is it the Street Profits? Is it, the Judgment Day? Like, the thing is, when you win a tag titles, it's not really, I'm not going to say it's not beneficial because that's just, I don't want to, I don't want to make fun of the tag division by any means, but when you're Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, you guys are main eventers, you go into the tag division and you're holding these belts, like you have to be putting on must-see stuff for months. And the Usos got away with that because they were with Roman Reigns. And I'm not saying KO and Sammy can't do it, but I don't know if a lot of people are going to be invested in like a 3 month promo, 3 month program with like the profits and the Judgment Day. I don't know how to say it was a recipe for failure, Aulino, but when you have them win the tag titles in the fashion they did at WrestleMania, it's just hard to consistently replicate that for months on end. So I think, Aulino, the best thing, honestly, is for KO to turn heel and turn on Sami Zayn because it got stale really quickly.
Oh man, imagine he does it again. As soon as they win the titles, WrestleMania, they had that feel good story, and just like in NXT, he's gonna powerbomb him on a turnbuckle eventually. So I think the turn, I'm with you. I think it's gonna come. I just hope that it's at a big pay-per-view their match. Like I hope it's on like a secondary premium live event that they just throw it in like Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia. Well, they'll have Kevin Owens say that he's gonna go after Sami Zayn and they'll go and fight each other like not even 2 months later in some random Raw match to close the show. Like build it up, their history in NXT, the Indies, and like I think SummerSlam, if they want to fill up that whole stadium, like they're some of the reports I've been seeing, I think that would make sense. Kevin Owens or Sami Zayn.
Oh, if you're WWE, and we've seen this in the past with, Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio, a couple other tag teams. If it gets really stale, let's say really stale, like KO and Sami Zayn, they continue to win handily against everybody. Would you at a pay-per-view just have KO versus Sami Zayn, but as the tag champs, like face versus face, just kind of see who the better guy is? Or do you think that's a little bit out of touch in this WWE? Because I remember looking back at Eddie and Ray at WrestleMania 21 when they were the tag champs. That was a hell of a match, and it was competitive. They both kind of, again, we all know what happened like a month or two later with Eddie turning heel, but do you think that would be the better option instead of just having KO just turn heel on him? Because I feel like that would be something I think the fans would want to see is just KO Sammy, both guys tag champs going one-on-one.
Yeah, I think it could work if they want to start the feud like that. Like maybe they're tag champs and in this tournament for the world title, they're both coincidentally drawn up against each other and they have a killer main event on Raw. And let's say Sammy wins, but as the months go on, it starts to go and eat away at Kevin Owens. Like I was a main eventer. I was a top guy here. I wrestled Stone Cold at WrestleMania. He came back because of me. And I don't know, since turning face and buddying up to Sammy, it's gotten a little soft. He lost his edge. So I think they should go in that direction instead of the typical heel goes and attacks the guy, and then we have the same thing. So I think they should do something different there with KO.
Would you want to see a Matt Riddle heel turn and bring back a heel Orton? I feel like that'd be a treat.
See Orton come back as a heel. It's rubbing off on Riddle. Would be good. I think
The
Riddle needs it.
The cocky Riddle. I want to see that.
The next match we have here is this one should be good actually. The build-up has been interesting. Women's title, Bianca Belair versus Io Sky. Bailey and Dakota, like ever since they got drafted, it looks like to SmackDown, this will be the last time that they wrestle for a Raw title. What do you think of just the way they're like kind of teasing a breakup here of Damage Control?
I think it's overdue, man. I think Io Sky could be a hell of a baby face. I think she's one of those up and coming women where we saw what she did in NXT. I thought she was a top 5 women's wrestler when she was in NXT. We saw what they did. I think it was 2019, the NXT. It was the Survivor Series with NXT people. She was amazing there too. I just think when you look at Bianca Belair, you're in a tough situation, man, where she's been so successful the last 3 years. Who's going to be that woman to really dethrone her? And, people maybe thought it would be Asuka. People thought it would be Becky Lynch. It just hasn't been. So Bianca's been on a hell of a run. Io Sky's definitely not the woman I think right now to dethrone her. Maybe down the line, maybe in a year or two. But when you look at the women's roster, there's not a lot of women out there that are on the same level as Bianca, same level as Rhea Ripley. The only way I could see her really losing is to either Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, or you unify the belts and she loses to Rhea Ripley. Though that's the only way right now. But if you really want to freshen things up, Aulino, you probably have Io turn face or Bailey turn face, as she's been heel for a long time now. So I think Bailey would really. I think, like, can you imagine, like, you have a face Bailey taking on like a Rhea Ripley? I think that would be really refreshing for the company. So regardless, I think Bianca wins this one here, but it could be a banger, no doubt.
Yeah, imagine the Bailey buddies making a comeback. The ones that she fucking slashed when it was that first SmackDown that she came out as a heel. Oh
Oh,
man.
that was fucking great.
And another match here. I agree with you there. I think it's long overdue that they switch it up. This match to me doesn't really make sense because Bobby Lashley got drafted to another show, but Austin Theory as a US champ, Bronson Reed is here. Like, depending on the outcome, you're like, where can they go with this for all these guys when this is done?
Is Bronson Reed on SmackDown or is he on Raw too?
I think he might be on Raw with
So,
Austin Theory.
so then Theory has to retain here because
Oh, yes. Actually, Theory's on SmackDown.
yeah.
Imperium's on Raw. Lashley's on SmackDown. And I think Bronson Reed's on Raw.
Okay, so this kind of makes sense then. I think you obviously don't have Lashley win. I don't see him winning the United States title here. I think Theory retains. I think it's going to be a hell of a match, though. I think Bronson Reed is a very underrated guy in WWE at the moment. People are still getting to know who he is. I call him Rusev 2.0. I think when he came up, a lot of people didn't really know how good Rusev could be, and the guy within 2 years was basically in the main event with AJ Styles for that WWE Championship belt. So I think Bronson Reed, he has the potential to really elevate his game year in, year out. I think right now he's a great mid-card guy. I think Theory is on. Honestly, he's going to be the future of the company. And Lashley, to me, I say it so many times, Aulino, this guy, since the pandemic, might be the most improved out of any guy on the roster. So it's going to be interesting to see Lashley and Roman Reigns on the same show. I think if you really want to go ahead and bring Bobby Lashley back up to that credible way, you have Bobby Lashley versus Roman maybe at SummerSlam, go for the WWE title. I think that would be phenomenal. But at the end of the day, I think the guy that benefits the most here is Austin Theory. I think he's going to retain here. And I want to say as early as January of next year, we might be seeing him, man, going after one of the main titles. I think he's a guy that even if he could become a babyface, I think sky's the limit for Austin Theory. So I'm going to go with Theory retaining here. But I think all three of these guys are going to look like rock stars coming out of this match.
Yeah, I agree. I think this could be one of the show stealers or just the outcome for like Austin Theory. There has to be a way that like keeps all these guys protected because they spent a lot of time there on Bronson Reed to try and build them up. And there's something that tells me like Bobby Lashley's going to probably take him out, and we got to see a little heel tactic here from Austin Theory to retain. But I think it's going to be A-Town down still on SmackDown.
Oh, yeah.
The next match here, we have the main event. Seth Rollins versus Omos. It's
Oh,
almost, is he going to win this? He's a free agent, so this is only going to add up to his negotiations with either Raw or SmackDown to bring him aboard.
I see both of them winning this. Like I could see Seth winning it. I could see Omos winning it. I'm gonna still lean to Seth Rollins taking the win here. I just think you need to build up the momentum if you're gonna, as soon as Monday, you're gonna have the World Heavyweight Tournament. I think Seth Rollins probably has to win this match more than Omos. I know Omos, sky's the limit for him. I think WWE sees a lot of potential in him. I was saying to you before, though, please do not give him the Great Khali treatment. Don't put him into the main event. Don't have him get a title immediately, and then all of a sudden you realize he can't work with a lot of guys. So I think you gotta be patient with Omos. I think in terms of his build to the main event, I think this. I've been saying to you for so many years, Seth Rollins has not had a lot of success with titles the last couple of years. I think with the passionate promo he spit when the world title was introduced, I think that's a big hint towards him winning it. I think he's deserving of winning it. I'm going to go with Seth Rollins winning this match. just to have him win the world heavyweight title in probably the next 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, I agree. I think he wins it, but I'm not gonna say he pins almost or like something like that. I see like a DQ or a count out happening here where he outsmarts him. MVP is gonna probably get involved, and I think they got to protect everybody here because if you have Seth beat him clean, like we saw what he did to Brock at WrestleMania, how Brock was getting thrown around, and then he just hit the F5 on him in a German suplex. So I think you can't have Seth just 1 month later go in and throw drop kicks that he hits him down with once, hits him with a curb stomp, and it's over. So I got almost just controlling the whole match, and then all of a sudden, Seth gets the upper hand and laughs his way backstage after getting a count out.
I like that. You think he can get over as a top face with this character though?
I think with the right opponent, like let's say Logan Paul comes back and challenges him for the title, they could do that program again. Even at SummerSlam, there'll be a if they want to do a rematch, have Seth and Logan Paul in one of the main events, like co-main event, or you can even have Seth turn heel as he's champion, like he's done in the past, and flip the script over there. So I think there's a lot of guys on Raw that he could work with, and even change his character up depending on who he's working with. So I think there's a lot of possibilities with Seth as champ.
I'm not gonna lie, man. I kind of miss the Architect Rollins. Like it's
Yeah,
been like I don't like I like his stuff he's doing now, but he's been doing it for a while. It's been like 2 years he's been doing this character, and I just think yeah, like he does suit it with the long hair and his laugh and all that. But I just want to see him like if he does win the title, I want to see him be a very serious Seth Rollins because the guy is way too good to be laughing and kicking and doing all this goofy shit. I know it works, but I think, somehow, somewhere down the line, I think Seth has to talk to Trips and say, hey, remember the corporate, remember the corporate Seth Rollins? Put me back to that. I want to be the architect. So I love Seth Rollins. I think he's one of my favorites of this decade, man. Since he came up 2012, I've loved this guy. I think he deserves another title because it's been like 4 years. So I think
that's
it's time for
crazy.
Seth. I think it's time for Seth Rollins to stop putting in these sub main event singles matches with no title, with no meaning. I think it's time for him to finally win a title and a one. And I think if he wins the world title, Aulino, that's going to boost the ratings. I think quite a bit.
I agree. Like to see that happen. And I think that's it here. Yep, that's it. That's Backlash. So solid card. I think all these matches could deliver in their own way. I even think this match could deliver, as crazy as it sounds. Almost really changed the opinion of him, like just what he did with Braun and Brock. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt here. Hopefully Seth can guide him around and they can kill it, but should be a good show. Now we got to move on to the down part of the pod. We had last week we were talking about the Leafs, how they can't goof around anymore. Playing Tampa in Game 6 and Game 7, they close it out in Game 6. Everyone's riding a high that they finally went through the first round. And what do? As soon as the second round starts, they lose both games at home. So, Chris, how you feeling on this roller coaster of a playoff run?
I'm disappointed, not because of I thought we played well both home games. I'm not really complaining about the all in all effort. It's just the mental lapses that the Leafs continue to have. And yeah, we won for a playoff round for the first time in 19 years, but you can't just go into the second round thinking it's going to get any easier. Florida was a team where I said from the beginning they're not an 8th seed. They never have been. And when they were battling for the playoff spot, I always had a hunch that they were going to make it because you look at their roster, they're made for this shit, man. Like you have Bennett, Reinhart, Duclair, Barkov, Kachuk. They got guys that all over the lineup can kill you. And I think they've scored, I think it's 9 goals already off of mistakes in this series. So, or not 9 goals, like in the whole playoffs in main mistakes. I think they scored like 10 goals from the Boston and the Leafs series. Bobrovsky all of a sudden now back to his Vezina ways. I don't know how, but I think he's going to regress as the series goes on. But when you look at the core four, Aulino, to begin this series, it just has not been good. William Nylander, yeah, he had probably the best third period of his life in game 2, but that second period, you can't come out there, make that turnover, and then not back check like that just to allow a goal. Marner and Matthews, that play cannot happen in your defensive zone. You're literally inches from the blue line, and you're dropping it to Matthews just to flick it and hit the Florida player, and they score. Everyone's blaming Samsonov. I don't understand it. The guy's been making huge saves every game. The amount of defensive, just mental errors that the Leafs have been having. Aulino, I don't know if you can agree with me, but with the Florida forecheck, our D just look like they're always in trouble. They don't have enough time to look up, make a pass. They're getting decked. They're not quick enough with their decision making. It's been tough. I know, the Leafs don't play well at home. That's just historic how it's been this playoffs. Yeah, we're 3-0 going to Florida, but when you're down 2-0 in the second round, it's completely different than in the first round. So buckle up, Aulino. This is going to be, I don't want to say a disappointing result, but only 20% of the time, the team that's down 2-0 going on the road wins the series. So Leafs have a lot to think about. Thank God they have 2 days to really, think about what they have to do to win. I think I still got the Leafs in 7, as I think we've seen they're the much better team when they want to be, but they got to play a full 60 minutes if they want to win this series.
Yeah, the only benefit for the Leafs is that Florida will kind of be like a home game, because I think it's going to replicate what we see when the Leafs play Buffalo, when they play Ottawa. There's a lot of Leaf fans that probably even live in Florida, and they're Canadian, that found a way around that dumb rule that when they first sold tickets, they're like, yeah, no Canadians can buy tickets. Like, a team that's desperate for revenue is putting that out there. That was a bold decision on their part. But I think the Leaf fans will probably be a 60-40 split. So I think they're going to hear a great response from them. They just got to show up. Like, McCabe, this is not Brian McCabe, because Brian McCabe shot the puck. Jake McCabe is like Caberlet, just passing, doesn't go for the shot when he has it wide open. So if only he can shoot in those chances, I think they would have been better off. Marner, him and Nylander, they got to find a way to this switch up their wings with the centers like Tavares, O'Reilly, Matthews. I wouldn't mind if they just split them all up, put them all on 4 lines, and you have one scorer on each line and try to see if you could get something going, because I think Florida doesn't have that kind of depth on their forecheck. They're really heavy on Kachuk, and he's taking advantage of those top 2 pairings. And I think if you can split up Nylander, Marner, Tavares, and Matthews on a different line, I think it might be beneficial to them. But it's going to come down to what Keefe does here. Paul Maurice looks like he's getting one up there on the Leafs. He's enjoying life right now. Another successful run. So I don't know. I think the Leafs could still do it. Samsonov, I love what he did after the game when the reporter asked that dumbass question about what he thought of Bobrovsky. He said, "I don't give a fuck," and they had to bleep it out the broadcast. So good for him. I think he has really exceeded all expectations. He was given up on by Washington, and the Leafs just picked him up. So regardless of what happens with the Leafs, Samsonov, I think, proved he can be a number 1 next year.
Yeah, if I'm the Leafs, he's probably the biggest priority in the offseason right now. I mean, I love Joseph Wall. Matt Murray, unfortunately, just hasn't worked out, and it's no knack to his game. It just, over the last 3 years, he's had a lot of injuries, and it adds up. Look at Jonathan Bernier. He's still under contract in New Jersey, and people forget that he's still in the NHL. But I think Samsonov, make no mistake about it, man. Like, the guy, he's getting paid what, he's getting paid what, like $1 million? Like, it's like he's barely getting paid anything, and the guy comes in here, wins us a series, mind you, against Vasilevsky. Vasilevsky, no, he didn't play the greatest, but went down to the big time saves in overtime. Samsonov was the guy that was making those saves. So in this case, Aulino, my biggest concern and thing that's really bothered me is we haven't exposed their defense, because their defense is so much slower than our offense. Like, we need to go in there and we need to forecheck just as hard as Florida, because we can get those cycles going in the offensive zone. I can't believe Radko Gudas is still in the league and doing what he's doing, because this is a guy, when he was on the Islanders back in 2015, I was like, this guy's going to be out of the league in 4 years because he can't keep up. He improves his skating. He continues to be a menace with his stick. Same with Mark Stahl. Mark Stahl had a hell of a game too. But if you're the Leafs, Marner, Matthews, Willie, they need to expose how slow they are, because as great as Aaron Ekblad is as a D, he might be one of the slowest guys out there. So if I'm the Leafs, I got to really go to our strength, which is our speed, our skill. Try and get as many penalties as you can, because we saw in the first period of game 2, our power play looked scary. So if we can get the power play opportunities, you skate around the D, you make them trip you, make them hook you. I think that bodes well. The only guy, Aulino, that I think could skate on their back end is Montour. I don't think anybody else is an elite skater on the back end there for them. Who? Forsling? I don't even think he's a good skater. So, I do like what you mentioned there. I think maybe if you want to put Kerfoot on the top line, really, really fast first line with maybe you have Willie, Kerfoot, Matthews, and then you could have O'Reilly, Tavares, and Marner, and then maybe go with Achari, O'Reilly, Bunting. But I do like what you said there. Maybe you put, I don't know, maybe you put Tavares on the third. You could really mix it up here. Really want to get experimental with the lineup, but at the end of the day, Aulino, I think with the Leafs, they need to be they just have to be the quicker team. They can't be scared, can't let your guard up. And Marner has to be better, because the first 2 games, he just looks scared out there, man.
Yeah. He celebrated a birthday recently too, so happy birthday, Mitchie.
Happy birthday.
Maybe that's gonna be the thing that turns it around. Mitchie looked at the cake probably, and he's like, you know what? Time to show up. Big boy Mitchie now.
26 years old, not a kid anymore.
Yeah. He's gonna go in there, get that goal that they desperately need. But like, Florida's been able to like overcome all this adversity early on, especially against Boston. Like, got a soft spot for Verhaeghe, what he's been able to do.
Oh,
Carter
man.
Verhaeghe, since
So
Marley is
good.
just, he's amazing, I think, and he's really changing their dynamic offensively. Like, they have Kachuk, obviously, who can do it all, but if you have a guy like that, when you have Duclair, even, like, that's what I think separates the way that Florida's able to play in the Leafs, because the Leafs, from the back end, like you said, it's too slow at times, and I think that's costing them early on.
And I got to give all the credit to Luke Shen. Like, he's been playing phenomenal in this postseason. But when you look at the forechecking matchup that he has to go up against every night, he's got to go up against Kachuk. He's got to go up against Bennett. He's got to go up against Reinhart, Verhaeghe. These guys are 6'2" plus, and they're running in there and they're hitting. And I got to give credit also to Morgan Riley, because he's not a guy that really takes punishment all that often. In these playoffs, he's taken a boatload of just hits, black eyes. Like, the guy has really been a gamer in this playoffs. And unfortunately, Aulino, we're seeing age start to diminish. Brody and Giordano, they're not the same D that they were 2 years ago. And I think with TJ Brody, simplicity is what's best for him. Just flick the puck out. Don't overthink it with the puck in your zone, as he does all the time. He's always behind the net, trying to look and make the best possible pass. He takes too long. What do you think about our D, Aulino? Do you stick with Liljegren? Do you put Hall back in? Because the way Brody's been looking, man, I don't know if he could last this whole series.
Yeah, I would add what they did in Tampa, Gustafson and Liljegren, roll 7, especially with Nyes out. Like, you don't want to keep on like putting another fourth liner out there. Roll with the forwards you have, and just continue to mix the lines up. You can have 3 lines and give a guy a rest here and there, and you always have a star out there. So I would add the 7th defenseman in there instead of another forward, and go with Gustafson. I wouldn't really do much there offensively. Like, I'm surprised they haven't really gone with Giordano and Brody together. Like, it worked in Calgary. They were there. They had great chemistry there. I would, even though they're slower now, they know where they are at times on the ice, and maybe you put them together against Florida, and they can slow the game down a little bit and not get carried away. That would probably keep them in check. That they're both aware of where they are in their career and not take too many chances. But maybe Luke Strand is proving that he might have to be getting more minutes because he's playing up to that 5th overall pick right now.
Yeah, he's been phenomenal, man. And even do you see his stick handling?
Yeah.
Holy shit,
Damn.
the guy's got
Elias
some hands
Pettersson.
on him now. I mean, I think they have this fascination with McCabe being on that second pairing. You go out and you get him at the deadline. I do agree with you. I think if you put Brody and Giordano, I think some Leaf fans will hate that just because they're really slow and they're in their zone. I think they're a little too slow with the decision making, but they went with Giordano and Liljegren for most of the game too. And I thought like Liljegren, he pinches way too much, and Giordano's just too slow to do things on his own. I think if you have Liljegren with McCabe, that's a little bit better in terms of if Liljegren wants to go, McCabe is a little quicker with his foot speed to get back and maybe make that defensive play. As where Giordano, yeah, he's a little bit physical, but McCabe could definitely throw his body. We saw it in the first round with Isamon when he killed him in the game one. That was amazing. But I do think they really got to go. Maybe try Brody and Giordano for maybe a couple shifts, see if it bodes well, and I think go from there. But Aulino, I got to ask this question before we move on. Who do you think the X factor has to be for the Leafs if they want to win this series? They're down 2-0. I think it has to be one of the big boys.
Mitch Marner. That's who it's got to be.
Yeah.
He's got to really ramp it up. I'd like to see him score, just be more selfish a little bit. I know that game against Tampa where he had the breakaway and it just a mental lapse. He just shot it on net. I think this is where he has to shine on Bobrovsky because fucking guy turned back the clock all of a sudden. He's playing the Vezina level. Didn't see this all year. The backup's probably pissed off. He thought this was going to be his moment, and Bobrovsky got his crease back, the $10 million man over there. So I think Mitch Marner's got to use his speed and just make life difficult for that entire back end on Florida.
I agree. I think it is Mitch Marner because we've seen first two games, he's a little bit scared. And when Marner's scared, he's just not the same dude. Like you got to go in there with confidence in the offensive zone. Maybe go up against Montour as much as you can. He's a little bit undersized, not the smallest dude, but when you look at their other blue liners, they're all big. So I think if Marner really wants to gain comfortability in the offensive zone, go after Montour, man. Go on the right wing. If you have to switch him to the right wing, switch him to the right wing to the left wing because I think that's where Montour really is. He's a right-handed defenseman. I like that. I think Marner has to shine on the power play. Obviously, the power play runs basically around him and Matthews. I think Marner's the guy that's going to be feeding it. But at times, I do agree with you. He's got to be a little more selfish. He's got to shoot when he knows that he has an open shooting lane because he's trying to do way too much, trying to force it to the point. And we love Morgan Rielly. We've seen his shots get tipped all in the first round, and that worked. And Aulino, that's all they got to do. They got to start shooting at the net because we saw in the first round, it went in like 20% of the time. Whereas here in Florida, they're not getting those shots to the net and they're not shooting quick enough. And yeah, you have Ekblad and Gudis and Mark Stahl who can block as many shots as they can. But eventually, dude, one of those is going to go through. So I think they have to shoot the puck more. Guys like McCabe, guys like Marner who do have those opportunities, they got to shoot more because we need goals to beat the Florida Panthers. Florida, we've seen this playoffs, man. They're an offensive team.
Yeah, I agree there. And Chris, we got to move on to this next one. I think gonna get your opinion on this. We saw a game that didn't really go to what many people thought with Carolina, New Jersey. I really thought New Jersey was gonna come out there all guns blazing, but they're unfortunately down here. What are your thoughts on what we've seen in this series so far?
Just getting outplayed, man. I didn't think. I watched Game 7 of the Rangers Devils, and the Devils looked phenomenal. They won 4-0. They shut them down. Patrick Kane was basically invisible out there in Game 7. Apparently, he was dealing with a lower body injury the whole time in New York. Yeah, whatever. But when you look at this Carolina team, they're banged up, But hey, they're resilient. They got a great head coach in Rod Brindamore. He's been there before. He won a cup. He knows what it takes to get there. And I got to say, Kotkaniemi yesterday, what a game. The guy is laying out Heischer, scores 2 goals, has the best Corsi rating on the ice. That's what happens, when Carolina makes a shot, they troll the Montreal Canadiens, they go out and they get Kotkaniemi. Is he worth all that money? Absolutely not. But you get players like that for these moments in the playoffs. And I loved Brent Burns going there. I thought he was going to be successful there regardless of the outcome of their regular season. Frederik Andersen, their defense is so good, Aulino, that he doesn't even get contested all that much. I think the first 2 games, the Devils haven't gotten over 30 shots. So if that's going to happen, the Devils are doomed for failure. And, they lose game 1 and game 2 handily. This was not, again, Devils lost game 1 and 2 handily to the Rangers, but I feel like this was a little bit different. This was more of a domination. Game 1, they had 5 shots midway through the second, Aulino. They had no opportunities at all in game 1. Game 2, it was looking good. After 1 period, it was 0-0. It was close, but then all of a sudden, you get a good bounce, you get a good hit from Kotkaniemi, and then the floodgates open, and all of a sudden it's 4-0. And it's like, what? Well, we're done. This is now an 0-2 series. I'm not saying it's over yet. They've overcome it against a New York Ranger team who I think, Aulino, might still be a little better than the Hurricanes when you look at if they faced each other. I probably would have given it to the Rangers. But this Devils team is inexperienced. They haven't been in this position in a long, long time, for some guys ever. Palat is a guy where I think you really need to rely on Palat to really get the boys going here. I saw Nico Hischier after the game say, we got to be angry. We got to play with a lot of anger and intensity going back home. It's not over yet, Aulino, as they are going home, but Carolina just looks dominant. They probably look more dominant than Florida.
Yeah, I was actually surprised. I thought the way New Jersey played against arguably the favorite in the East, like the Rangers, I thought, you know what, they can actually make life difficult here for Carolina. But we're seeing Brent Burns, why he is what he was there in San Jose coming into Carolina, and it's really added something to their team. And this team they're not the most attractive team on paper, but for whatever reason, they're just making life difficult for every single team they play. So if Carolina sweeps them, I wouldn't be surprised. And if they end up blowing it and we see New Jersey come back and rally here, I wouldn't be surprised either. It's just you don't know what you're going to get out of Carolina. And I think New Jersey could do it. They did it last series against the Rangers. They could do it again. They could come back after 2 and make things interesting. So I won't count them out yet, but I do think Carolina right now, just the way they've been playing, I think they can win this in 6.
I think if I'm New Jersey and I'm Lindy Ruff, you got to get an idea of who your starting goalie is going to be. You can't be flip-flopping every game. If you're going to go with Vanecek and you have all year, I know Schmid's kind of been the lion for the Devils. They put him in a good spot here. He was the hero in the Ranger series. But I think if you're the Devils here, you're down 0-2, put your starting goalie back in net, give his confidence back. Vanecek has 1 good game. Then maybe the wheels could start turning, because Jack Hughes has been he's looked invisible. And again, it's the Carolina Hurricanes are a scary team. They're going to shut down the best guys as best as they can. I said to you before, Sebastian Aho, he's a small guy, but he plays like he's 6'1". He throws his body around. He took a puck to the face and he scored. Aho is a warrior, and they're getting Teravainen back too, I think, as a series goes on. I agree with you. I'm a Devils guy, but I think this Carolina team, they're on a mission here. They're way too good defensively. The Devils haven't taken on a pairing in Pesce and Slavin in a 7-game series, so I'm going to go with Carolina in 6. I think they're the better team, and I think they're a lot hungrier. And again, Aulino, experience plays a big role in these playoffs.
Yeah, that's Jersey. It's an interesting one too, but gonna move on to tonight, where we got a rematch of what we saw earlier on a couple nights ago. The Golden Knights taking on the Oilers. It's Connor McDavid, Jack Eichel, the 2 generational players that got drafted in the same class. What have you seen out of that first game? Because I thought Vegas is showing you can have your guys score 4 goals, but we're the better team here.
I say it every series, buddy. Goaltending, and I loved what they did against the Kings, where in the beginning of the series he was getting outmatched by Corpusalo, but as the series went on, the Oilers found a way to get goals. But hey, like if Stuart Skinner's going to be playing like this, where their penalty kill is weak, they allow a couple power play goals early. The confidence is going to be deflated for Skinner, and then you put Jack Campbell in, who beats himself up when he lets in 2 goals. So their mindset in net has to be better. I know McDavid and Draisaitl, they could do it all themselves, but they need scoring depth. They need Evander Kane and Zach Hyman, I think, to reach another level. And Nugent Hopkins, man, he's gone a little quiet. I think he only has 5 or 6 points in these playoffs. They need more from those guys, but specifically Stuart Skinner and Jack Campbell, regardless of who's in net, kind of like the same situation in New Jersey. They need to find confidence in their game quickly. And, you have a tough first period. Let's say you're down 1-2-0. Don't beat yourself up for it. Pick yourself back up. You're in the NHL. Stuart Skinner had 40 wins in his rookie year. He knows what he can do at his best. Just try and shut the door as best as you can. No mental lapses, because you look at the Oilers' defense, Aulino. It's not the greatest in terms of defense. Darnell Nurse, I still think, is a little overrated. Bouchard is a phenomenal offensive defenseman. But guys out there like Desharnais and the other couple D that they have there, they have to step up and defend guys like Eichel and Stone, because Eichel is looking phenomenal as the playoffs roll around. It's his first playoffs, but this guy, he's sending a message. He pickpockets McDavid game 1, gets the empty netter. He's motivated, man. We talk about it. The first pick and the second overall pick in the 15 draft. People forget how close it was at one point, where Eichel was battling McDavid for number 1. So Eichel hasn't forgot that. Vegas hasn't forgot it. I do think Oilers win tonight. I think they do win the series. But Vegas is a team that you got to watch out for. I think regardless, Aulino, we're in for a treat. I think this is going to be a 7-game series, probably high scoring every game.
Yeah, I think what we saw first game is just the tip of the iceberg. I think McDavid has a 4-goal game in him tonight. And I think they're going to split the games at home, and I agree. I think it's going to go 7, but I have Vegas winning 7 at home. It's going to be a tough one. I think every game over-under is going to be like the Leafs and Lightning series, where they were just trying to get it under 5, but every game is going over 7. So I think much of the same here. I just want to see Phil the throwback out there. It's a playoff game. He's a playoff performer. The coach has to put him in there.
Why is he not playing? That makes no sense, like, at all.
He's a scorer. You got to throw him in there.
You're putting Brett Howden out there over Phil Kessel, a guy that should have won a Conn Smythe. All right. Hey, if it works, it works. But if it doesn't, you look like an idiot. So it's up to them. But I do agree. I think you put Phil Kessel on a line with Chandler Stevenson, who to me has been probably the breakout guy for Vegas in this playoff so far. He's been, I think he leads their team in points. He's been a meaningful guy in front of the net in the first power play unit. I thought he would be more of that secondary power play, because, again, you have William Karlsson, who could really shoot the puck, former 40-goal scorer. But Chandler Stevenson, man, this guy is really fitting in on that first power play with guys like Eichel and Mark Stone. And I think the X factor here for both teams, if you're Vegas, it's definitely Mark Stone. His 200-foot game is elite. He's got to have to shut down McDavid and Draisaitl, and as well get a couple goals in this series if they want to be successful. And for Edmonton, man, it's obviously Stuart Skinner. If he's going to be great, they're going to the Stanley Cup final, because McDavid and Draisaitl, they can get you 3 goals every single game. It's hard to stop, dude, what Leon Draisaitl's doing right now. I have no words. He's got 11 goals already in this playoffs. He's second all-time in points per game in the playoffs behind Wayne Gretzky. That guy's pretty good at hockey. So Leon, right now, if Aulino, call me crazy, if they went to the finals and they win it, Draisaitl might be winning the Conn Smythe Trophy over McDavid, because he's just been, I think, more of the X factor here. But if they want to win the series, goaltending comes first. Stuart Skinner's the X factor, and I go with Mark Stone for Vegas.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think if the Oilers were to win the cup, I think we'll see a Crosby Kessel situation happen here.
Yeah,
I think they would
yeah.
probably give it to McDavid, but deep down, the people that are voting, they'll know, like, you know what, Leon Draisaitl probably deserved it.
King
So
Leon. Yeah.
what he did in that first game was crazy. But for them to lose, I think they're going to come back. I see a lot of those games, high scoring, 10. I think it's going to be 6-4, probably in Edmonton, their first game. I'll be surprised if one of these games goes to like 1-1, 2-2. Just the goaltending on both ends is where it is, like Skinner, Campbell, Brassois. Like, do you think in Vegas, the situation, will we see Jonathan Quick at some point here?
I can't believe we haven't, but hey, here we are. Brossoit's really holding his own. I think if Brossoit allows a 5 goal game and they're stinkers, maybe we see Quick the rest of the way. But Brossoit, man, he's played his role well, and it's kind of like what we saw with Casey DeSmith last year with the Penguins. He kind of came in and it's like, yeah, Jari's hurt, but can you go in and can you do the job? And then it wasn't the Smith. It was someone else after that went in. I'm trying to remember the guy's name.
Yeah, they had
Shit.
a lot of guys last year. It was
Not
like
coming to me.
Jari, the Smith, and they had
It's
a
not
guy with a brief bit.
it's not coming to me. Fuck, what's his name? He's the guy that likes cooking. I'm trying to remember his name. It's not coming to me right now. But anyways, we've seen 3 stringers come in and really stand on their heads. So I think Brossoit's done a hell of a job. Logan Thompson is injured, and Jonathan Quick, as we all know, they're not going with him for some reason. So Brossoit is relishing in the opportunity, and I agree with you. I don't think there's an under in this series. They're all going to be overs just based off of goaltending.
Interesting. Like, what Campbell, when he signed there, it looked like he was going to be the number one. Nope, not the case there. We even saw Skinner now. It looks like he's going to take control, but the way Edmonton, the way Toronto is, those guys are interchangeable. We're going to probably see another guy save the day. I wouldn't be surprised if they go for a goalie in the offseason. So it's going to be interesting. This whole series is probably like a wake up call for teams. Like, maybe they're going to prioritize goaltending over defensemen at the trade deadline, because what we saw now, like, if you have a healthy goalie that can go in, you have a tandem and stability there, you might look at a long playoff run if you're either of these teams.
Perfect example, Jake Ottinger in Dallas. You have a
Yeah.
starting goalie you can rely on. There's all the confidence in the world right there. And, I love Gorgiev. I think he's a good goalie, but is he a starting goalie? I don't know. He's an elite backup goalie, probably one of the best backups in the league. But when you make that transition in your first year going to, you look at Kemper, you look at Varlamov, you look at Grubauer, they had all that success in Colorado. Maybe they thought Gorgiev would lead them to the promised land, but that's a big what if. Whereas you look at Ottinger, you know what he's doing. He's a starting goalie for the last 2 years. Last year, his playoff debut, he was unbelievable against Calgary. The only reason they lost was because of Goudreau and that amazing OT winner. But that easily could have gone to Dallas, and you look at what he's doing this year. I still think they're the favorites out west to go to the finals just because of, you just said it. They have a pairing that they rely on in Esa Lindell and Heiskanen. They have Ryan Suter on the back end. They got so many guys back there. And then you got Jake Ottinger, who is a 6'5" goalie that can shut it down whenever he wants. So I think Dallas is probably the favorite. And I do agree with you. I think when it comes to the deadline, maybe moving forward, maybe you have to give up a first to get a goalie. But I think if you really want to be successful, that's an elite rental right there.
Definitely. And as you bring up that series, we'll move on to that. It's Dallas taking on Seattle. Pavelski, I don't know what the hell he did, but he scored 4 goals too. Probably gonna get drug tested, and probably not in the NHL. They don't do that sort of thing. So whatever he's on is working. Do you think Pavelski can continue this and lead Dallas to the final?
He's not going to lead them with goals and all this, but you need a guy like Pavelski to go to the final. Ask Logan Couture back in the day on San Jose. Logan Couture is the only San Jose Shark left that's still a part of that team. If I'm any team out there, I want Logan Couture on my playoff run. The guy plays phenomenal in the playoffs. I think Pavelski has really brought the best out of Tyler Seguin, Aulino. Seguin has 5 goals in this playoffs. When they went to the finals that year, guess how many goals Seguin had? 2. So Seguin he's improved tremendously. He's really embraced his role as a leader, Seguin. I think, he's now 30, 31 years of age. He's not that hot shot kid anymore. He's on that line with Pavelski and Wyatt Johnson on the second, and it's really working well. You have Rupe Hintz, Robertson, and Ben on that top line that just bullies the crap out of anybody that runs in their way. But I got to give Seattle credit, man. They stuck with it against the Colorado Avalanche, ending them in Game 7. Was it a pretty Game 7? No, but they did shut it down. Grubauer played phenomenal. And I got to talk about my buddy Adam Larson. That guy has been an absolute unit on the back end. Him and Jamie Oleksiak are 2 trees back there that know what they got to do to get it done. So I got to give Adam Larson, Grubauer, and Oleksiak credit on the back end, but I got to give Eberle, Bjorkstrand, and McCann credit on the offensive end because those 3 guys have been phenomenal for Seattle. But you know me, I'm a big Dallas guy. I'm going with the Dallas Stars in 6 games. As what we saw in Game 2, they just looked like they were too much for Seattle.
Yeah, and I think goaltending is splitting them apart here. Like Seattle has a nice little team there. They have playoff experience, Stanley Cup experience, but when you see what Dallas has, the kind of depth they have in Jamie Benn, like the resurgence he's had, you have Suter back there, you have Domi in the mix. It's a big problem for any team to deal with. So I think we'll be seeing Dallas and Vegas, and that could be a fun one. Or Dallas and Edmonton. We'll see if McDavid could get through that kind of team. But Seattle has had a nice run, and Jordan Eberle's stock, I think, is going to continue to go up. Like Alexiak, I remember when we saw that game when they played the Marlies. I remember just looking, I'm like, what the hell is that? That guy just coming out to warm up. I'm like, is that a player? Like, what's going on
basketball
here?
player?
Where did they find this guy? And it's worked out. So Dallas and Seattle exceeded expectations. It's been a lot more fun than I thought it would be. I was expecting Vegas and the Oilers to be that, but it's been a nice little series.
Yeah, I think the Dallas-Seattle series, in my opinion, probably has been the best one so far this second round. I mean, Florida and Toronto were a little biased, but I just think of it, like pure enjoyment, and I think just how close it's been. I really have liked the Dallas-Seattle series because I said to you, if Seattle were to win, I didn't think it would be close. And in the first 2 games, Seattle's held their own pretty well. So again, dude, I got to give all the credit to Seattle because I did not see them. I said to you in our preview, I had Colorado in 5, so they continue to prove me wrong. There's always one team that proves me wrong in the playoffs, and it's Seattle this year.
I like it. And guess we'll close it out here with a quick little hoop talk. Warriors and Lakers. What do you think about this series? And who do you think's going to be going on their chase for 5 rings?
You know what? After Game 1, I thought it was going to be the Lakers as they won, and they only took 6 threes. But after Game 2, what I saw the Warriors do, I got to go with the Warriors. I think the Warriors are the better team all in all. I don't even know if they have the better depth. I just think when you think of Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins, a big role on this team is Gary Payton. He's a really underrated defender. And you got to love what DiVincenzo brings to this Warriors team, too. He's a guy that can go out there all of a sudden play basically the Austin Reeves role. He can go out there and drop 17 on any random night. Andrew Wiggins, to me, has been a little bit of a disappointment so far. Hasn't really been putting up the consistent offensive numbers. But if Klay Thompson continues to play like he's playing and Steph Curry, they're going to be going to the finals again because this team, they've been there before. Nothing phases them, and Aulino, no one has eliminated them in a 7-game series since 2014. It's been 9 years. So they have all the confidence in the world. People forget that they have Kuminga, that guy, and Moses Moody. If you really want to play them, get them confidence, they have offensive skill. And, Vanderbilt and Anthony Davis are only built for so much. I think Davis is the X factor here because Game 1 he dominated, Game 2 he was invisible. He's either Wilt Chamberlain or he's JaVale McGee. You really don't know what he is. LeBron is looking fatigued. I mean, he dropped 22 in game 2. D'Lo's got to be better too, man. This is a guy that you can't be dropping 14 points. You got to be getting at least 20 with a couple really meaningful threes. I got the Warriors in 7. I think this has to go 7 just because it's the NBA. The marketing is crazy for the series. I'm going Warriors in 7, and I think the winner of this one, I love Denver, but I think the Warriors are bound to go to the finals again.
Oh man, if they do that and Curry can get the job done, it's an all-time great performance again from him. So I agree with that one. I think the Warriors will get past the Lakers here, and good on Steph Curry if he can do that. Always has to hear about LeBron and that one championship win, and then after he takes them out in the play-in when it was Lakers Warriors, get Curry one win over him here at this point in their career would be meaningful for him. So I got the Warriors there. And in terms of Denver and Phoenix, this one is kind of back and forth, but I'm starting to lean more towards Denver just because of the way Joker's playing.
Yeah, I said Phoenix in 7, but I think if seen as Denver has the home court, I think Denver, what we saw first 2 games at home, they looked unbelievable. And Jamal Murray is showing flashes of the bubble Murray where he can drop 30 any night. The other night, Aulino, I think it was last night, his first 15 shots, I think he was like 12 of 15, something like that. Or no, that was game 1. Just he was not missing. Last night it was Booker's turn to just absolutely go ballistic. So I think the narrative here, as much as it leans on KD and Jokic, I think it comes down to Jamal Murray versus Devin Booker, who's going to get the more points for their team at the end of it. DeAndre Ayton, I think he's played his way out of Phoenix. I mean, like the guy looks just useless out there. Jokic spinning around him, getting all the rebounds he wants. Like we said in the preview, Jokic was going to toy with him regardless in this matchup, but didn't think it would be this bad. He had 4 points last night. I needed him to get 10. The guy gets 4. So I think I'll take Denver here in 7. I think Jokic is looking so motivated, but Jamal Murray, the way he's elevated his game, and hey, Aaron Gordon and Michael Porter Jr., those are pretty good guys as well as 3-4 options. So I think when you look at the depth, I think Denver has it in the bag. I love KD. I love Chris Paul. I love these guys. I want them to get the rings, but I think this is the year where now that Jokic didn't win the MVP, I think he's going to be a little more motivated in this series. I'll go with Denver in 7.
I agree. I think Denver wins this, and you're going to see Jokic start talking a little more shit. I hope we see that. And going on to the MVP, who do you think wins that series now with Boston and Philly?
I'll go Boston in 6 games. Yesterday was a big loss for the Sixers at home. You do the whole MVP celebration for Embiid before the game, just to go out there and basically get blown out against the last 2 games have gotten pretty hand. I think they lost both games by 10 plus. So again, it's depth. I think, you look at Harris, who hasn't been doing too well. Maxi's been shut down against Marcus Smart. Can you really rely on James Harden to drop 45 again? No, probably not. I think Joel Embiid has to be the guy to drop like 35 a game if they want to even come close, because Aulino, I'll say this till one of them leaves, like Tatum and Brown will kill you every single game if you don't have the right matchups. And we saw game 3, they had Maxi on Brown at times, and it's like, no, that's not going to cut it. They focus so much on Tatum that they forget how great Jaylen Brown is. So the depth, I got to give the edge to the Celtics. You have guys like Malcolm Brogdon and Al Horford coming off the bench. Aulino, that's just absolutely massive. I'll go with the Celtics in 6, and Aulino, I think the Celtics are bound to go to the finals for the 2nd straight year.
That'll be an interesting one. And who do you think they play in the conference final? Because the Knicks and Heat, both fan bases have been rallying behind their team. Like, could the Knicks get the job done here?
Is today game? I think today's game 3 for that. It's in Miami. I got to go with the Knicks in 7. I think the Knicks are the better team, not by much, but they are the better team. I think they've shown a little bit more resilience too, because a lot of people wrote them off against the Cavs. I was one of them. I thought the Cavs would win that in 7 just based off home court advantage, and then or not home court advantage, just based on I think the star power on the Cavs was a little better, with Mobley, Allen, Mitchell, Garland. But you got to give credit to Randall, Barrett, and Brunson. These 3 guys have really shown that they are elite scoring options. And Brunson, dude, I think he should have been an all-star this year. This is a guy where he's proving everybody, specifically the Dallas Mavericks, to not give up on any player, because this guy, damn, he could have been a great secondary guy behind Doncic, and they just fumbled the bag here. So Brunson showing not only is he an elite scorer, he's a great leader. I got the Knicks going to the conference finals, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Knicks even gave the Celtics a headache in the conference finals.
Oh, that'd be good. Madison Square Garden rocking for that one. But on that note, Chris, this has been fun. Episode 215 here. We covered WWE Backlash, which takes place tonight. Went through the downfall there of the Leafs in the first 2 games. Hopefully they turn that around. They got to knock this off here. And we went through the NBA playoffs. So that's been episode 215. Episode 216, we'll probably find out a better idea of who's going to be in the conference finals in both NBA and NHL. But on that note, it's Giancarlo Aulino and Chris Martelli signing off.